This is for us writers, us readers, us girls who never saw ourselves on bookshelves, but we're still writing poems when we talked. And we've been called teeth-sucking, of snapping eyes, born bitter, brittle, of tangled tongues, sandpaper that's been origamied into girls, not worthy of being the hero nor the author, but we were always Medusa's favorite daughters, dreaming in the foreshadows we composed ourselves. Since childhood, taking pens to palms as if we could rewrite the stanzas of lifelines that try to tell us we would never amount to much. And when we were relegated to the margin, we still danced bachata in the footnotes. We still strong-armed the gatekeepers. We still clawed our ways onto the cover, brought our full selves to the page, our every color palette and bouquet of pansies and big hoops and these here hips and smart-ass quips and popping bubblegum kisses, us girls who never saw ourselves on bookshelves, but we're still writing tales in the dark. Us brown girls, brick-built, masters of every metaphor and every metamorphosis, catch us with fresh manicures, nail filing down obsidian stone, and painstakingly crafting our own mirrors and stories into existence. This poem that I read for you all was my thinking through what does it mean to be someone who maybe didn't grow up with a mirror and wanting to create that now, to see your reflection and also show kids who might look like you, like, hey, we're here. It's very much thinking about those of us who wrote even when we didn't see ourselves as main characters, and for those of us who are writing now, who hopefully will come forward with more examples, but who are also going to carry the torch of saying our stories are just as important as any other story in the canon. I think a lot about the movements that are happening right now in terms of Me Too and Time's Up. We are going to shift the status quo, shift the way in which women have been treated for so long. And I just hope that this shift always remembers women of color and poor women and disenfranchised women who maybe may not have the loudest microphone in front of them. And I hope that those of us who may not be that loud are still thought of and remembered and pass the mic. My name is Elizabeth Acevedo, and this is my brief but spectacular take on seeing you.
I was born and raised in San Francisco in an interesting time of transition, a time when the corporatocracy was ascending. In a way, the streets still kind of belonged to us. Institutions still belonged to us. It felt like we had the keys to the buildings. Along the way, it all got bought up, and now I'm just in a city that's a strange and permanent occupation in which even the wealthy seem to be incarcerated. To walk down the street in the Bay Area is really to walk through a dystopia. In one sense, it feels or has the facade of all this kind of aesthetic, even human evolution. But really you have people bouncing superfluous conversation to superfluous conversation, bouncing meal to meal, and the rest of us bouncing tent to tent, a bunch of condos and tent cities. This poem is titled The Course of Meal. Apparently, too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. This dream requires more condemned Africans, or put another way, state violence rises down. Or still life is just getting warmed up. Or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions. Or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. And this is the worst downtown yet. And I've borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback face. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. Threw it at the first bus I saw, eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number and on out the front of the White House. And hopefully you find comfort downtown. But if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. My role in the Bay Area, besides hanging on for dear life, is to do what I can to transform culture from one that that facilitates domination of oppressed people to one that facilitates resistance. I taught in prisons, youth homeless shelters, youth group homes, even youth psych wards. Everywhere our conditions are most wretched. A lot of what I actually pull into my craft, a lot of strategies I actually pull from other disciplines of art. Looking at a John Coltrane, looking at a Jimi Hendrix, trying to figure out what made them tick. Playing with ideas, playing with patterns of logic does kind of stand outside of time and doesn't require the same cultural landmarks for anybody to engage your ideas and engage your words. So in that way, a poet's craft lasts a long, long time. My name is Tongo Eisen-Martin, and this is my brief but spectacular take on poetry as revolution.
Ready? I tell people that spoken word poetry is a type of poetry that doesn't just want to live on paper, that something about it demands to be heard out loud and witnessed in person. It's a very immediate art form. You get to see visibly on people's faces and hear out loud if and when they are responding. There's a lot of people who have been led to believe that poetry is not for them, or they don't get poetry. And that always makes me sad, because a big part of what I try to do in my work, not only in my art, but also in my work in classrooms, is to try to make poetry feel a little bit more accessible. Sometimes I'm in an audience where it is helpful to give them time to realize that a poem is going to happen. And other times, it's actually more effective to not warn people. When I'm inside writing, all I can think about is how I should be outside living. When I'm outside living, all I can do is notice all there is to write about. When I read about love, I think, I should be out loving. When I love, I think, I need to read more. I'm stumbling in pursuit of grace. I hunt patience with a vengeance. On mornings when my brother's tired muscles held to the pillow, my father used to tell him, for every moment you aren't playing basketball, someone else is on the court practicing. I spend most of my time wondering if I should be somewhere else. So, instead, I have learned to shape the words, thank you, with my first breath each morning, my last breath each night. When the very last breath comes, at least I will know I was grateful for all the places I was so sure I was not supposed to be, all the places I made it to, all the loves I held, all the words I wrote. And even if it is just for one moment, I know I will be exactly where I am supposed to be. My name is Sarah Kay, and this is my brief but spectacular take on spoken word poetry.
Letter to 5 of the presidents who owned slaves while they were in office. George Washington, when you won the revolution, how many of your soldiers did you send from the battlefield to the cotton field? How many had to trade in their rifles for plows? Can you blame the slaves who ran away to fight for the British? Because at least the redcoats were honest about their oppression. Thomas Jefferson, when you told Sally Hemings that you would free her children if she remained your mistress, did you think there was honor in your ultimatum? Did you think we wouldn't be able to recognize the assault in your signature? Does raping your slave, when you disguise it as bribery, make it less of a crime? When you wrote the Declaration of Independence, did you ever intend for black people to have freedom over their bodies? James Madison, when you wrote to Congress that black people should count as 3/5 of a person, how long did you have to look at your slaves to figure out the math? Was it easy to chop them up? Did you think they'd be happy being more than just half human? James Monroe, when you proposed sending slaves back to Africa, did black bodies feel like rented tools? When you branded them, did the scar on their chest include an expiration date? When you named the country Liberia, were you trying to be ironic? Does this really count as liberation? Andrew Jackson, was the Trail of Tears not enough for you? Was killing Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, Seminoles not enough to quench your imperialism? How many brown bodies do you have to bulldoze before you can call it progress, Mr. Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Jackson? When you put your hand on the Bible and swore to protect this country, let's be honest in who you were talking about. When the first Independence Day fireworks set the sky aflame, don't forget where we were watching from. So when you remember Jefferson's genius, don't forget the slaves who built the bookshelves in his library. When you remember Jackson's victories in war, don't forget what he was fighting to preserve. When you sing that this country was founded on freedom, don't forget the duet of shackles dragging against the ground my entire life. I have been taught how perfect this country was. But no one ever told me about the pages torn out of my textbooks, how black and brown bodies have been bludgeoned for 3 centuries and find no place in the curriculum. Oppression doesn't disappear just because you decided not to teach us that chapter. If you only hear one side of the story, at some point you have to question who the writer is. I'm a third-year graduate student at Harvard University, and I study broadly the history of racial inequality in the United States. I taught high school English for several years in Prince George's County, Maryland, and part of what I always think about is how important it is to complicate history. The presidents and the founding fathers and all of the people we sort of raise up as false idols. We don't wrestle with the fact that many of these were brilliant men, but they were also men with deep prejudices against people of color, against indigenous people, against women. The Jefferson I learned about was the intellectual founding father of this country, responsible for the conception of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And we never talked about the fact that he owned slaves. Only after we understand where we've come from can we understand how we need to move forward. My name is Clint Smith, and this is my brief but spectacular take on complicating the history of the United States.
They say you ain't supposed to be here, black girl. You ain't supposed to wear red lipstick. You ain't supposed to wear high heels. You ain't supposed to smile in public. You ain't supposed to smile nowhere, black girl. You ain't supposed to be no more than a girlfriend. You ain't supposed to get married. You ain't supposed to want no dream that big. You ain't supposed to dream at all. You ain't supposed to do nothing but carry babies and carry felons and carry weaves and carry silence and carry families and carry confusion and carry a nation, but never an opinion. Because you ain't supposed to have nothing to say, black girl, not unless it's a joke. Because you ain't supposed to love yourself, black girl. You ain't supposed to find nothing worth saving in all that brown. You ain't supposed to know that Tina, Beyonce, Cecily, Shonda, Rhymes, shine, 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 black girl. You ain't supposed to love your mind. You ain't supposed to love. You ain't supposed to be loved up on. You only supposed to pose voodoo child, vixen style. You're supposed to pop out babies and hide the stretch marks. You're supposed to be still. So still they think you statue. So still they think you chalked outline. So still they keep thinking you stone. Until you look more Medusa than Viola Davis. Until you sound more Shanae than Kerry Washington. Until you're more side-eyed than Michelle Obama on a Tuesday, but you tell them you are more than a hot comb in a washing set. You are Kunta Kinte skin. You are a black girl worth remembering, and you are a threat knowing yourself. You are a threat loving yourself. You are a threat loving your kin. You are a threat loving your children. You black girl magic. You black girl fly. You black girl brilliance. You black girl wonder. You black girl shine. You black girl bloom. You black girl, black girl. And you turning into a beautiful black woman right before our eyes. My name is Mahogany L. Browne, and this is my brief but spectacular take on Black Girl Magic.